I'm Penelope, I'm 34, and I'm sitting in the condo I bought 3 years ago on a mortgage, staring at this email from my company's human resources department. They want me to go work at our European branch for 2 whole years? 2 years. That's a long time to be away from home. I work for this big tech company, and honestly, I have a pretty good position there. The money is decent too, which is how I managed to get this place. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine, you know? Well, mine in the banks for now. I still have a lot of mortgage payments left, but here's the thing. I can't just leave this condo empty for 2 years. That would be stupid. I mean, I'd still have to pay the mortgage while I'm gone, and that's just throwing money away. So I started thinking, why not rent it out? Use the rental money to cover my mortgage payments. I called this lawyer I know, Silas. He helped me with some things before when I bought the place. Silas, I need to run something by you, I said when he answered. I'm going overseas for work for 2 years. I want to rent out my condo. How do I do this properly so I don't get in trouble with the tax people later? He laughed. Smart thinking. Yes, you'll need a proper lease agreement. I can draft one for you, and you'll have to declare the rental income on your taxes. But it's pretty straightforward. Just keep all your receipts. That got me thinking about the state of my condo. It's not bad, but it could use some touch-ups. So I decided to hire some contractors to fix things up. I found this crew through a friend's recommendation. 3 guys showed up the following Monday. What have we got here? The main guy, Theo, asked. The kitchen needs new paint, the bathroom could use some tile work, and the living room walls have some scuff marks. Nothing major, but I want it looking fresh. 2 weeks, Max, Theo said. But you can't stay here while we work. Too much dust and noise. That's when I called my friend, Ariana. She has a big house on the other side of town, and I knew she had a spare room. Ariana, can I crash at your place for a couple of weeks? My condo is getting some work done. Of course. You know you're always welcome here. So I packed some clothes and moved into Ariana's guest room. The contractor started the next day, and boy, was I glad I wasn't there. The noise was incredible, even from Ariana's house when I drove by to check on their progress. But here's the thing. I still hadn't told my parents, and it was weighing on me. My parents are, well, they're a piece of work. They like to be involved in everything I do, giving advice I haven't asked for and making suggestions that aren't really suggestions, if you know what I mean. My sister Layla is 8 years younger than me, so she's 26. She still lives with my parents, which honestly doesn't surprise me. They've always spoiled her. She's been dating this guy, Declan, for about 6 months. He seems nice, I guess, but he doesn't really work much. Neither does Layla, for that matter. She went to college, but I was the one who paid for most of it because my parents said they couldn't afford it. Anyway, I knew I had to tell them about Europe at some point. I was just putting it off because I knew they'd have opinions. They always do. 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave, I finally worked up the nerve. I called my mom. Hey, Mom, can I come over for dinner tonight? I have some news. Of course, I'll make your favorite. Layla and Declan will be here too. I arrived at 6 with a bottle of wine. My parents live in this nice house they bought when I was in high school. It's bigger than my condo, that's for sure. We sat down for dinner. Mom had made pot roast, which was pretty good. Layla was there with Declan, and she kept looking at her phone during dinner. Typical. Then Mom said, "So what's this news you wanted to share?" I took a deep breath. The company has offered me a position in Europe. I'll be gone for 2 years working at our branch there. My parents looked at each other and then at me. Tell us more, Mom said, leaning forward. So I explained about the position, the responsibilities, the timeline. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see Layla rolling her eyes. She always did that when I talked about work stuff, like it was boring or something. That sounds wonderful, honey, Dad said. We're proud of you. Thanks, but there's one more thing. I'm planning to rent out my condo while I'm gone. I mean, I can't just leave it empty for 2 years. I still have to make the mortgage payments. The mood in the room changed instantly. Mom and Dad looked at each other again, and I knew that look. They were having one of those silent conversations married people have. Actually, Mom said slowly, you don't need to rent it to strangers. Layla and Declan could stay there. That way you know it's in good hands, and you don't have to worry about tenants wrecking the place. I blinked. Excuse me? Your sister needs her own space, Mom said, and she and Declan are planning on getting married soon. I looked at Layla, who was suddenly very interested in the conversation. Declan was grinning like someone just told him he'd won the lottery. Okay, I said carefully. If they want to rent it from me, I'm open to that. I'd even give you a 20% discount on what I was planning to charge. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom's face went white, then red. Are you serious right now? You want to charge your own sister rent? I stared at her. Mom, I have a mortgage to pay. The whole point of renting the condo is to cover those payments while I'm away. But it's family, Mom said, her voice rising. Layla finally spoke up. God, Penelope, you're so greedy. I can't believe you wouldn't just let me live there. I do help the family, I countered. Who paid for Layla's college when you guys said you couldn't afford it? Who lends you money every time you ask? Dad cleared his throat. That's different, honey. How is it different? Layla leaned forward. Because you make way more money than we do. You can afford to let me live there for free. I could feel my blood pressure rising. Layla, I make more money because I work my butt off and I still have bills to pay. We need that income, Dad said. We're saving for Layla's wedding. I stared at him. And I need income to pay my mortgage. How is my situation any different from yours? Layla slammed her hand on the table. Because we're your family, and besides, I don't want to live in Mom and Dad's rental property. It's in a terrible neighborhood. Your condo is downtown, near everything. So you want the nicer apartment, but you don't want to pay for it? God, you're such a bitch, Layla said. Declan finally spoke. Come on, Penelope. We wouldn't trash the place or anything. We'd take really good care of it. I'm sure you would, but I'm not running a charity here. The room went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Mom's voice was ice cold when she finally spoke. I think you should leave. Fine. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. No one said goodbye. No one saw me out. I just left. The drive back to Ariana's was a blur. I was shaking. I was so angry. How dare they act like I owed them something, like I was being unreasonable for wanting to be paid for the use of my condo. Ariana was in the kitchen when I walked in. Hey, how was dinner? She asked, and then she got a look at my face. Oh, what happened? I told her everything, every word of the conversation. Ariana shook her head. Penelope, honey, I hate to say this, but they've always favored Layla. Even when we were in high school, it was obvious. Layla gets away with everything, and you're expected to be the responsible one who helps out. I sat down at her kitchen table and put my head in my hands. You're right. I know you're right, but it still hurts. Ariana made us both tea, and we sat there talking until almost midnight. She reminded me of all the times over the years my parents had asked me for money or expected me to help with Layla's expenses or just generally treated me like the family ATM. You're doing the right thing, she said. Don't let them guilt you into changing your mind. I won't, but God, this sucks. The next 3 days were quiet. No calls from my parents, no texts from Layla, nothing. Part of me was relieved, but another part was hurt too, like they couldn't even try to see my side of things. On the 4th day, I drove over to my condo to check on the renovation work. The contractors were done, and the place looked amazing. Fresh paint everywhere, new fixtures in the bathroom, even some new cabinet pulls in the kitchen. Theo and his crew had done a great job. After they left, I sat in my empty condo and looked at the rental applications I'd received online. There were quite a few, but one couple really stood out, Mark and Jennifer Chen. They both had good jobs, excellent credit scores, and glowing references from previous landlords. They seemed perfect. I called them that afternoon. Hello, this is Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. It's Penelope about the condo rental. Would you like to see the place? I could meet you there the day after tomorrow around 2. That would be perfect. We're very interested. Wonderful. I'll text you the address. 2 days later, I met them. I got there a few minutes early and waited outside the building. They showed up right on time, a nice-looking couple in their mid-30s, both dressed professionally. We went into the building and took the elevator up to the 3rd floor. I was chatting with them about the neighborhood, telling them about the grocery store on the corner and the good restaurant 2 blocks away. "Sounds like a great area," Mark said. "It really is. I've loved living here." We got to my door and I pulled out my key. "Well, here we are," I said, unlocking it. I pushed the door open and stepped inside, with Mark and Jennifer right behind me. And that's when I saw them. Layla was sitting on my couch in sweatpants and a t-shirt. Declan was in the kitchen making a sandwich. There were suitcases in the corner by the window, and Layla's clothes were thrown over the armchair. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "What the hell?" I said. Jennifer and Mark were standing behind me in the doorway, clearly confused. Layla looked up from the couch like nothing was wrong. "Oh, hey, Penelope, you should have called." "Called? This is my apartment." Declan turned around from the kitchen counter, still holding his sandwich. "Hey," he said to Mark and Jennifer, like this was totally normal. Mark and Jennifer looked at each other and then at me. Jennifer said quietly. "Is this a bad time?" "No, it is not a bad time," I said, my voice rising. "These people are not supposed to be here." Layla stood up. "Actually, we are. Mom gave us the key yesterday. We're going to live here while you're away." I stared at her. "She what?" "The spare key you gave her when you bought this place. She gave it to us yesterday. We moved in last night." My hands were shaking. Jennifer touched my arm. "Maybe we should come back another time," she said softly. "No, wait," I said. But I could see on their faces that they were already done. This was too weird, too awkward. "We'll call you," Mark said. But I knew they wouldn't. They left, and I heard their footsteps fading down the hall. I turned to Layla and Declan, who were looking at me like I was the one being unreasonable. "Get out," I said. "We're not going anywhere," Layla said. "Mom said we could stay here." Declan nodded. "Yeah, and don't worry about the utilities or anything. We figure you can just keep paying for those." I pulled out my phone and dialed my mom's number. My hands were still trembling with rage, and I could feel Layla and Declan watching me from across the room. Mom answered on the 3rd ring. "Did you really give Layla the key to my apartment?" I asked, without any greeting. Mom's voice took on that defensive tone she always used when she knew she was wrong but didn't want to admit it. "Layla needs a place to stay, and you're being selfish about this whole thing. I thought if they just moved in, you'd see how silly you're being." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Mom, this is trespassing. They don't have permission to be here." "Don't be dramatic. They're family." "I don't care if they're the Pope. This is my apartment, and I did not say they could live here." I told her about Mark and Jennifer, how they'd left because of this mess, how embarrassing it had been. Mom just kept saying I was overreacting and being greedy. I hung up on her. Behind me, Layla was laughing. "You should have seen your face when you walked in here," she said to Declan. "It was priceless." That was it. I walked out of the apartment without another word to either of them. I sat in my car in the parking lot and called 911. "I need to report a trespassing," I told the operator. "There are people in my apartment who do not have permission to be there." The operator took my address and said they'd send officers. I told them I'd meet them in the lobby. 20 minutes later, 2 police officers showed up, Officer Martinez and Officer Kim. I explained the whole situation to them as we rode up in the elevator, how I was leaving for Europe, how my family wanted me to let my sister live there for free, how my mother had given them my spare key without my permission. We got to my door and I opened it with my key. Layla and Declan were still there, but now they looked nervous seeing the cops. "What's going on?" Layla asked, but her voice wasn't as confident as before. Officer Martinez stepped forward. "We need to see some ID from both of you." They handed over their driver's licenses, and Officer Martinez checked them. "Ma'am," he said to me, "can you confirm that you did not give these individuals permission to be in this apartment?" "That's correct. I did not give them permission." Officer Kim turned to Layla and Declan. "Do you have any documentation that shows you have a right to be here? A lease? Anything like that?" Layla looked terrified. "Our mom gave us the key. She has a spare." "The owner of the apartment is standing right here," Officer Martinez said, "and she's telling us you don't have permission to be here. You need to gather your belongings and leave in the next hour." That's when Layla completely lost it. She started screaming at me, calling me names I won't repeat. She said I was ruining her life, that I was a terrible sister, that I'd always been jealous of her. Then she tried to lunge at me. Officer Kim grabbed her arm before she could reach me, but Declan made it worse. When he saw the cop holding Layla's arm, he shoved Officer Kim. "Get your hands off her!" That was a mistake. Both officers immediately moved to restrain Declan, and within seconds he was on the floor in handcuffs. Layla was screaming even louder now, and when she tried to kick Officer Martinez, she ended up in handcuffs too. "You're both under arrest," Officer Martinez said. "Trespassing and assault on a police officer." They read them their rights as I just stood there watching. My sister and her boyfriend getting arrested in my apartment. The officers escorted them out in cuffs. Layla was still yelling as they took her down the hall, but now she was crying too. After they were gone, I sat down on my couch and just breathed for a minute. The apartment was quiet, but there was still evidence of their brief occupation everywhere. Their clothes, their suitcases, some food in the kitchen. I spent the next 2 hours packing all of their stuff back into their suitcases. I wasn't gentle about it, I just shoved everything in and zipped up the bags. Then I called a courier service and had them pick up the bags and deliver them to my parents' house. I didn't want to deal with it myself. While I waited for the courier, I called a locksmith I knew. The building manager had recommended him when I first moved in. "Hi, this is Penelope in apartment 3B. I need to have my locks changed today, like right now, if possible." He said he could be there in an hour. True to his word, he showed up with his tools and had new locks installed in 30 minutes. Now I had brand new keys, and my parents' spare key was useless. While he was working, my phone was blowing up. My parents calling over and over. I didn't answer. Then the texts started. My mom sent message after message that I was a terrible daughter, that I was selfish, that I was destroying the family, that I was a monster for having my own sister arrested. I didn't reply to any of them. The next morning, Officer Martinez called me. "We wanted to let you know that your sister and her boyfriend spent the night in jail. They're asking if you want to press charges." I thought about it for a minute. Part of me wanted to, but they were still family, even if they acted like jerks. "No, I don't want to press charges for the trespassing. But what Declan did to your officer, that's up to you guys. He'll probably get a fine and community service, maybe some anger management classes." "Not my problem," I said, and I meant it. I realized I was running out of time to find tenants on my own. I only had a week left before I had to leave for Europe, and I'd already lost Mark and Jennifer because of this mess. I called my friend Danny, who's a real estate agent. "Danny, I need help. I'm leaving for Europe in a week and I need to get my condo rented fast. Can you help me?" "Of course. Send me pictures of the place and I'll get it listed properly. I'll handle the showings and everything. You just focus on getting ready for your trip." That was exactly what I needed to hear. I spent the rest of the day taking pictures of the apartment and sending them to Danny, along with all the details about the rent and lease terms. 3 days later, I flew to Europe. 2 weeks after that, Danny called to tell me he'd found perfect tenants and the lease was signed. Living in Europe turned out to be amazing. The job was challenging, the city was beautiful, and I was making good money. Best of all, I was getting the rent payments for my condo every month, which covered my mortgage perfectly. Danny had found a great couple, both doctors who took excellent care of the place. For the first month after I left, my phone was blissfully silent. No calls from my parents, no angry texts from Layla. It was like they had just cut me out of their lives, and honestly, I was okay with that. The peace was incredible. Then my Aunt Carol called. She's my dad's sister, and she's always been the most reasonable person in our family. "Penelope, honey, how are you settling in over there? Listen, I wanted to tell you about the situation with Layla's wedding." Carol told me that Declan's parents had found out what happened at my apartment. Apparently, they had to post bail for Declan to get him out of jail after he was arrested. And when they asked him what happened, he told them the whole story. "They were horrified," Carol said. "Absolutely horrified. They called your parents and told them they were disgusted with the whole thing. They also said they thought Layla was a spoiled, entitled brat. Carol explained that Declan's parents had been planning to pay for a huge chunk of the wedding. They'd already put down deposits on the venue and the catering, but after the apartment incident, they pulled all their financial support. They told Declan and Layla that if they wanted to get married, they'd have to pay for it themselves. They said they weren't going to reward that kind of behavior. Wow. It gets better. Layla went to your mom and begged her to let them live in that rental property your parents own. Your mom said no. I couldn't help but laugh. So suddenly Mom understands the concept of needing rental income. Exactly. Layla threw a huge fit about it. She started yelling that it wasn't fair, that your parents were being just as greedy as you. She said that to your mom, and your mom did not like it. They had a massive fight, and Layla stormed out of the house. She and Declan are living in some little studio apartment now, and they're barely speaking to your parents. Carol told me the whole family was basically at war with each other. Layla was blaming me for ruining her wedding plans. My parents were blaming me for causing all the drama in the first place, and everyone was mad at everyone else. Your mom is still saying this is all your fault, Carol said. She told me last week that if you had just been a better sister, none of this would have happened. A better sister? Are you kidding me? I told her she was being ridiculous. You've been more than generous with this family over the years. The way they treated you was disgraceful. It felt good to hear someone in my family acknowledge that. Carol had always been the voice of reason. How are Declan and Layla doing financially? I asked. Not great. Declan has been picking up odd jobs here and there, but nothing steady. Layla got a part-time job at a retail store, but she hates it. She's constantly complaining about how unfair it is that she has to work when she should be planning her wedding. Has she tried to get a real, full-time job? You know Layla. She's never been particularly motivated in that department. 3 months later, Carol called again with more updates. Declan's parents had apparently tried to reconcile with him, but only if he apologized to me and made things right. Declan refused. Carol said he told them he didn't do anything wrong, that you overreacted by calling the police. Unbelievable. His parents told him that until he takes responsibility for his actions, they want nothing to do with him. So now he's lost his family's support too. Layla and Declan's relationship was apparently getting rocky. The stress of having no money, no family support, and no wedding plans was taking its toll. They were fighting constantly. Layla called your mom in tears last week, Carol said, begging her to talk to you, to convince you to help them out somehow. What did Mom say? She said she wasn't going to call you because you had made it clear you didn't care about the family. Good, because I wouldn't have answered anyway. 6 months into my European assignment, I was thriving. My condo was still generating steady rental income. My mortgage was being paid on time, and I was building a nice savings account with my overseas salary. The work was interesting, and I'd made great friends among my international colleagues. I hadn't heard from my parents or Layla in months, and that was exactly how I wanted it. Carol still called every few weeks to check in and give me updates, though I'd stopped asking for them. I didn't really care what was happening with Layla and Declan anymore. They'd made their choices, and now they were living with the consequences. You know, Carol said during one of our calls, I'm proud of you for standing your ground. Your parents always expected you to be the responsible one who fixed everyone else's problems. It was about time someone said no. I just got tired of being taken for granted. As you should have. You worked hard for what you have. No one has the right to just take it from you, family or not. Now, as I sit in my European apartment looking out at the city lights, I don't feel any guilt at all. I made the right choice. My condo is well cared for, my bills are paid, and I'm living my life on my own terms. Sometimes family isn't about blood. Sometimes it's about the people who truly respect and support you. And sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away from the people who only see you as a source of money or favors.